Viruses, Trojans, and worms, oh my! I'm Woody Huffines with Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. We get a lot of people that come in with a computer and they say it's got a virus on it. Well, it doesn't have a virus on it. It's got a browser hijacker, or it's got a virus on it. It's got some adware. So it occurred to me this week that there are some technical terms that us computer people use that people who aren't computer people just use generically. It's like if you decided that in your world you were going to call a table a chair and somebody said, what do you mean to do with my drink? And you said, well, sit it on the chair. And they'd look at you kind of strange because they think of that as a table. And that's part of the problem that we have a lot of times when we're talking with customers about what's wrong with their computer, because we have a technical language that goes with fixing computers. So I thought today we'd spend a little time talking about the differences between the symptoms and the actual causes in the world of viruses, because there's a lot of things that can get put on your computer with a virus or a Trojan or a Rootkit, or there's a bunch of different ways to get the malware on your computer. So let's talk about the major pieces of malware, and then later on we'll talk about how those spin off and how they apply to the particular problem that you're having. So it may not be a virus, it may be something else. So let's get started. A virus, an actual virus, is a program that resides on your computer that executes code on your computer that changes the way the computer operates. That's a virus. Now, a virus can be delivered a bunch of different ways. Somebody can give you a USB and you stick it in your computer and it copies the virus file down. Or you might download a file or a computer program. Like if you go onto some of the computer program places, download.com, and you think, I want the latest antivirus, and you go download it from a nefarious source, it could have bad code in that file that you load. And that's kind of a Trojan horse, but the idea is a virus is a specific thing that downloads a file on your computer, executes that file to do bad things to your computer. And we'll talk about that download and execute here in a second. The second kind of malware is called a worm, and it's really probably the oldest of the malwares. In 1988, a guy named Morris, I think it was at Cornell University maybe, he wrote a worm. He saw a vulnerability in the Unix system and wrote a little program to test to see if it really was vulnerable. And a worm, the thing that differentiates a worm from a virus, is a worm doesn't have to have a human do something to download it or transfer the file or do something else. A worm is able to jump from computer to computer and replicate itself without human contact or human interference. If you're going to get a virus, you have to do something as a user to put the virus on the machine. A worm, if you're connected to the internet and your computer has that vulnerability, another computer can infect your computer with a worm, and they propagate really fast. There was some studies done back in 1990-91 about worms, and the worms would spread over the computer network, and they'd infect like 95% of the computers on the internet in 23 hours because everything's working at computer speed. And it's like this coronavirus stuff that we're talking about. And we're talking about the spread of coronavirus. And if it spreads, if one person infects 2 people, then 2 people infect 4, and 4 infect 8, and 8 infect 16. And that's an exponential curve. And it's x to the second. It's squared. You multiply it, so it's a square curve. It's exponential curve. A computer virus, because a computer might be connected to, let's make the math easy, to 10 computers. So 1 gets the worm, and then 10, then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, then it goes quick because it can spread so much faster over the internet. Worms are usually depend on a vulnerability like the WannaCry worm. It was interesting, the Morris worm, the first one, the 1988 one, he made a mistake in programming. He was testing it out. He didn't test it on an environment, and he didn't realize it was going to get out, and it got out, and he got fined a lot of money. The next kind of malware is a Trojan horse. Now, just like the Greeks at Troy, and they put the horse out in front, and all the Greeks were hiding inside, and they wheeled it in. Thank you for the gift. They opened the gate, and they said he got overrun. A Trojan horse is a virus program that is presented to you like that it looks like something else, like an email attachment or a phishing email that says, hey, boss, check out this spreadsheet I did, and it's called something XLX, which is a Excel extension, but it's really not. It's really a bad program that's going to run on your computer and take your computer over, or put malware on it, or put a keylogger on it, or ransomware, and we'll get to that later. But a Trojan horse is something that looks harmless, that will in fact infect your computer and cause a problem. So you got viruses, that's a file that you have to do something to get it downloaded to your computer. A worm, which other computers can infect your computers without human intervention. Third is a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is something that looks innocent, but it's not. And they use social engineering to get you to click on that thing to infect your computer. Next is this thing called a rootkit. And the way a computer works, it's like the card catalog in a library. Most of y'all don't know what that is. But anyway, there's this cards in a library that helps you find, let's use a different example. On your computer, you have a file system, and that file system lists all of the files on the system. So if you say to your computer hardware, your OS, you tell your OS, hey, give me a list of the files that are on the machine, it goes down and lists each of those files. Just tick, 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 and it goes from one file to the next file, the next file, the next file. Well, what a rootkit does is it gets in that file manager program and says, anything that's named Woody's virus, don't report it to the OS. Just skip that one and go to the next one. So if you get a rootkit on your machine and you scan it with an antivirus software, the antivirus software goes, hey, list all the files on the computer. Well, the computer lies to the antivirus because the rootkit allows the root access of the computer to exclude files. It's like they don't exist on the computer. So if you want to do nefarious things and you can get a rootkit on somebody's computer, if you can specifically call that file and execute it because you know it's there, you can do that, but it won't list it in a file listing on the computer. Infamously, in about 1997, Sony, back when people started getting compact discs and put them on their computer, the part of the anti-copying software that got installed if you played a Sony music disc on your computer was Rootkit. And the bad guys found out real quick there was a rootkit out there that they could use to do bad things to your computer. All they had to do was name whatever it is they put on your computer, $S, $dot anything, and the file system would ignore it because Sony put a rootkit on your computer. I didn't buy Sony stuff, about 5 years behind that. And finally, the new thing is called Fileless Malware, where there's not a file that's put on your computer. What it does is it runs the routine in RAM. So when you turn your computer on, RAM, which is the random access memory, is the thing that boots up the computer and it gets all the programs and all the stuff that the computer does stays in the RAM. And the RAM reads things off a disk or mass storage and executes it and then puts it back. Well, a fileless malware goes in and infects the RAM. So if you turn the computer off, all traces are gone. And an antivirus can't find it because it's not a file. So it's like something, there are rootkit search tools now where you can go in and disable the rootkit functionality to find malware that's been put in that's in a rootkit. With this one, it's only in the computer when the computer's on. You have to infect it when the computer's on, and now it'll stay infected until you turn the computer off and the RAM goes cold because the power goes away. It's called fileless malware. So you got viruses, which are files on your computer, Trojans, which are files on your computer that you ask for, worms, where one computer infects another computer, a rootkit, which hides bad things on your computer, and then fileless malware, which is the new big thing in malware. And we'll talk about the symptoms at a later date, but those are the main kinds of malware that gets on the computer. And if, for example, someone wants to use ransomware, they might use a rootkit, they might use a Trojan horse, they might use a virus to infect you. There's a bunch of different things, but the base viruses are those first 5, and then the symptoms, whether it's ransomware, keylogger, adware, grayware, there's a whole list of them that we'll go through. Those things just use some combination of rootkit, virus, and Trojan horse to get on your computer. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, and send it to your friends. We'll see you later.